folks. Very warm welcome to all of you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. So we have a very interesting topic that we're going to discuss with Victor today. This is a very personal favorite topic of mine as well, because we as an organization have been working on this topic for a while now, and we've seen multiple facets and multiple angles to this. And the topic is, should you hire for culture fit? Yes, no. If not, what is a better way? So that is what we're going to look at in more detail with Victor today. Victor, very warm welcome to you today. A quick introduction about yourself for the audience.
Well, I spent about 40 years in HR, half in consulting and half as chief HR officer, and the last 10 as certified master coach, working with senior leaders, helping them achieve breakthrough results. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. Great. So, Victor, let's right away jump into it, right? Culture is such a big word in the organizational parlance, right? And companies spend so much money on defining their culture, and a significant amount of money even for hiring or trying to hire for culture fitment, right? Does it work? Does it not work? What do you think?
Doesn't work, and it's got us into a lot of trouble. So let's go back to the cost. Corporate culture has been around for multiple decades, and companies, according to a Harvard Business Review article, they spend on average $2,200 per employee on various culture-related issues. And so if you have 2,500 employees, that's $5.5 million. And then the real slap in the face is twofold. One is that only 2% of employees agree that their coworkers are committed to the organization's culture, values, and beliefs. And then 28% of executives understand the company's culture, so they don't even get it. So we spend all this money, we're not getting any return on investment, and everyone's confused. But it's brought us to this point of recognizing that hiring for culture fit has brought about conformity. And now we're finding like this just like me kind of attitude. If you're a white male predominantly and with a certain background and you're hiring for fit, we're fitting people into boxes that aren't diverse enough.
Yep. Well, absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest risks of culture fitment, because you're trying to fit something, right? Isn't it? And in my mind, I think let's take a step back. Let's first define what is a culture in typical parlance, right? Typically, we define it like how work gets done here, right? And that basically translates into shared values, shared beliefs, shared behaviors that we expect most of our workforce to live on a day-to-day basis, right? And like you said, only 2% people actually think that their colleagues are living the company's values or demonstrating the common set of behaviors. So at the end of the day, we're spending so much money, but it's not working. But still, we try to hire people who fall into the same bucket and fall into the same umbrella, or fall into the same demographic type that we wish to bring in. That is definitely not aligning to the diversity thought process that organizations want to build, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, then the question is, okay, so what do we do? So the concept has kind of morphed into, in more present terms, culture add. And culture add shifts the emphasis towards valuing individuals who bring unique perspectives, experience, and backgrounds to an organization, and thereby enhancing and diversifying its culture. So what it means is that we have to go back and rewrite all those job descriptions and job postings that ask for people to fit into our box. You know, specific experience in specific companies, specific industries. So they'll have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think we're going to peel the culture ad onion a little bit more. Just wanted to add one anecdote to this example that you shared just now, right? I was reading somewhere, and it has actually stuck with me for a very, very long time now, since we have been doing a lot of research on what organizational culture is primarily, right? Typically, we look at culture as white or black, right? It's either this or that. It's either 0 or 1. But humans don't behave in a 0 or 1 manner ever, right? We are more fluid. We are more, as the day comes, or as the week comes, or as the month comes, we evolve. What we join an organization, if you're spending a decade in an organization, what we joined as an individual, we're not the same individual 10 years after. Hence, our values and our personal beliefs also change, and they also travel their own journey, right? That is why I believe that the real organizational culture is something like a yin and yang, where you have some bits of the commonness, but there is some bit of the uniqueness that each individual brings into themselves. Can that be classified as a perfect example of culture ad? What do you think?
Yeah, I would think so, because we're not going to get rid of culture altogether. We're still going to have those values and practices and beliefs, but we need to really talk about, first, are they really valid? If no one's following it, correct, and executives don't understand it, so we need to do some education around there.
Correct.
But concept is shifting to this culture ad to get more diversity. So, and today it's a global world, and all of the companies are competing on a global level, at rates never seen before. So, what are we looking for in the new people to help us deal with that and address diversity related issues?
Right. So in essence, if you're an organization that is trying to build diversity, then don't do culture fitment, do culture ad instead, isn't it?
Right. Don't hire for fit.
Correct.
Hire for ad.
Right.
And so what with that diverse background, they have different work experiences. They're not, labeled. They're not going to fit into this box. Must have 10 years of experience in whatever. We need to begin to look at, well, what other things, where is the company headed? The vision of the company may be that where, like we're retail now, but, in 10 years, we want to be more logistics. So let's hire for that.
Yep.
Global perspective. And then we get into competencies of culture ad, like adaptability and flexibility. Those have always been part of our typical hiring culture. But then we need to look more at collaboration, cultural sensitivity. So our candidates that we're interviewing, do they have an understanding and respect for different cultures? Because that's where we're headed.
Correct. So cool. I think we have clearly established that culture ad is better than culture fitment if you want to build diversity in your organization, right? What other benefits can culture ad bring vis-a-vis culture fitment, as per you, Victor?
Well, we've talked about, there's so many efforts on the way to achieve diversity. And that's a primary benefit, is that we're going to get people from different cultures, different backgrounds, and it will support what our efforts are in the diversity angle. It'll bring new ideas, new ways of thinking, It'll bring in a bit more resilience on the part of the employees that we're hiring, people that are able to address the ebb and flow of where the company is headed. I think studies have shown that, doing this can add significant profit to the bottom line. There haven't been any really demonstrable studies on the benefits of culture add, but we know from what we've been talking about that it adds so much to the environment of the company that it can help become a competitive edge.
Absolutely. So in a sense, you are using culture add to build a sustainable competitive edge vis-a-vis others in the market, isn't it? In a nutshell.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Next question. How do you build it? How do you hire for it? Because our interview processes, our recruitment processes have been geared and tuned towards hiring for culture fitment. And now we need to change them. You need to have an approach which is more flexible, which is more real time, which is more adaptive, right? How do you do that?
Well, I think at first you have to retool your applicant tracking system, because we've trained that, system to look for the wrong things, the less than diverse and more conforming. So really need to retool that system. And then secondly, we have to agree on what culture adds means for our company. And, I'm not talking about spending hundreds of millions of dollars on it. It's really building a new competency model that is driven by culture add competencies. We talked a few of those, multi-language, different work experience, diverse backgrounds, but the competencies of culture add become more visible around adaptability, flexibility, resilience, cultural sensitivity. So we have to now retool our hiring system to address those competencies. We also have to educate hiring managers and anyone else who is interviewing candidates that we're shifting. So it's an educational process. What is culture add versus culture fit, and why are we moving more towards culture add? So a lot more education and retooling of the systems is required.
Right. How do we change the interviews, Victor? You need a different approach to interview candidates in culture add, right? You can't have your standard set of views to look at. You need new skills. Interviews need to adapt and learn new skills to be able to hire for culture add, isn't it?
Well, sort of depends on the company. If they're not using behavioral interviewing, then yes, they need a shift to new skills. And what is that? We've talked about them in our masterclass, asking more behavioral focused questions. And simply put, but not too simply, is asking questions about, tell me about a time when. So if we're looking at adaptability, tell me about a time when you had to adapt your typical approach to problem solving in order to meet a company objective. So if behavioral interviewing isn't part of the culture, if you will, we need to start there and train managers and interviewers on what that is, and then begin to talk about what culture add means to the company and what the unique competencies are.
Awesome. How about an example for our audience, Victor? How would a culture add interview look like in reality?
Sure. Well, no different than any other interview. if the company is using behavioral interviewing. Most of the difference is before candidates show up. So it's rewriting the job descriptions, it's retooling the ATS system, educating interviewers on what culture ad means, and then introducing the competencies to them and breaking the bias. You know, they've been drilled for so many years to hire just like me. And that's something that we have to break.
So if you had a time machine, Victor, and would you go back in time and change your hiring process and methodology? When would you actually go back and change it? Which year?
Oh, you know, that's an interesting question, because culture ad is where we're at now, and the process of getting there has been valid. I think for some companies, I'd go back and educate around why are we spending all this money if we're not getting a return on investment? And that's got to be the driver of any leadership development or HR initiative.
Correct.
Is what value are we going to get out of this?
Correct.
And I would try to avoid spending the $5.5 million on culture and spend more on education around what it means to the company. You know, so many times back when culture meant having values on a piece of paper, posted in the break room or on the website, and nothing else. And so
it's still the case for a lot of organizations, Victor.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that's got to change.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. All right, awesome. That's been great, Victor. So thank you so much for your time today, and see you next time.
Yes, I appreciate the invitation. Always a pleasure to work with you, and look forward to the next session.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining us today, and we'll look forward to you joining in the next session as well. Till then, you take care and be safe. Good night.
Check us out
Bye-bye.
on the YouTube channel.
Yep.